Hi there. So in this video, we will talk about like how we can monitor the metrics of IoT devices like in a real-time dashboard. So I mean, like when we work with IoT devices, trying to get that data into Amazon Web Services, we could ingest it with IoT Core, and then like how we are able to visualize the data. So QuickSight has been very popular, but it does not work very well with how we can see the real-time data. So that's where like I have put together this architecture where we have like IoT devices, they connect, they keep sending data to IoT Core, and then like one of the platforms where we can see or we can visualize the data in real time is like Amazon managed Grafana. Now there are like a couple of ways of how we can get these IoT metrics into Grafana. One is through IoT Sitewise, the other one is through Timestream database. So here, because I wanted to keep it simple, and then the intention was just to get the data from IoT devices to Grafana, so like anyone can visualize the data. So that's the intention, and then like so I have come up with like a simple architecture where we can visualize the data, and then we can create these dashboards. We can share these dashboards with other viewers. So how do we do that? We will go through all of these things now. For IoT devices, like one change in this architecture, or like what I do for an IoT device is like I have a M5Stack Core2. So that's by M5Stack company. So we can use that to generate data and then send it to IoT Core. So this is what we will be discussing in uh, this video. Okay, and maybe I'll quickly show you like how does the output of this one look like as well. So if you see uh, the end part to how we can visualize the data in Grafana, this is how like I mean like this is one of the metrics that goes from the devices into Timestream, like to IoT Core and then to Timestream database, and then like from Grafana we are able to get it, and then like we will go through this entire step process of like how we can program a device, send the data to IoT Core, and then like how we can forward that data into Timestream database, and then like finally we can visualize that in Grafana. So let's begin. Well, so what's M5Stack Core2? It's a device. It's one of the controllers based on ESP32, Espressif's ESP32, and this is like manufactured and supported by this company called M5Stack. So along with this, we need a sensor. Although like this device comes with a lot of peripherals, for example, like you will see how it has accelerometer, it has inbuilt battery, it has like a number of things within it. It has like touchscreen, LCD, uh, buzzer, vibrator, and a number of things. But let's say I wanted to use some sensor which is very simple. So I'm going to use this ENV3 temperature, humidity, and pressure sensor. So that's what I'm going to connect it so that like we can send the data to IoT Core. Now, how do we program this? There are like a bunch of ways of how we can program it. What I will be trying to do is like use something that's native to M5Stack, which is like a visualized way of how we can try to program this like in a very simple manner. Okay, so the first thing we will need is uh, the device, and that you should connect it. So here I have my M5Stack Core2. So in order to program this like with a visualized way, like what we can first do is like there's a software called M5 Burner that installs like the bootloader into the device. So let's quickly go into software and then developer tools. This should lead us to the section where based on which operating system you have, you can download one of these three. So I'm going to use Mac, so I'll download this one. So it's like very straightforward. You download it, you install it, and then you have it. Since I have it already, I'm just going to go open up this M5 Burner application on my computer. Okay, while you try to upload this one, you will want to make sure that you have connected the device to your computer. So if we see on the left, we see like there is Core2, and then this device that I'm currently having is based on Core2. So I go to Core2, and then like what we want is this one, UI Flow Core2. So I'll quickly download the bootloader from here, and once that gets ready, we will provision it. And parallelly, I'll also want to make sure that I discover this one in my computer. So I'll quickly connect this up. As soon as you connect it, it says like found new device and whatever that ID was. Now, based on which operating system you use, these names could be varying, like comport. So one of the ways you can figure it out is by disconnecting and connecting it again. Okay, once you have it, like let's configure this device so it automatically connects to the Wi-Fi so that we can program it online. So configure here, it asks like which COM port is it? Like we know this is the one that is belonging to the M5 Core2. So I'm going to click that and select load. It will load whatever existing settings it has. So this is the COM port, this is the MAC ID API key, and then like when it starts, what mode should it start in? Since the next thing I want to do is like program it, so I'll start it in internet mode and show the boot menu, all of this. Okay, fine. And the Wi-Fi I have in my place that I want this device to connect to is like TS Lab devices, and then like which has the password. Okay, fine. Now I save it, close it, and then burn this one. I mean, like we can give this again, but since we have configured the Wi-Fi already, I don't have to do this again. Next, this is the device, and at what speed do we want to program this bootloader? Okay, we have this. Click start, it'll start, and then like it'll complete the program. I mean, like it'll flash the bootloader into that. Well, so while this base image goes into the M5 Core 2, we will quickly see like how we can program this one. So here again, like when you come back to the website and go to software, it gives you like another link where it says UI Flow Coding IDE. So that's like an online IDE where you can program it. So that's where we go to, and then click on Get Started for free. It'll open up the IDE for you. So this is where you can drag and drop blocks, and then you can pretty much program it. So the way you select which device do you want to program it for, you can select like you can do which device do you want. So you can select new, and then it can do it. I have put together a program already. So what I'm going to do is like quickly open up this program, not save, but yeah. And this is the one that I have. So open it. It's like a simple program, and we have a bunch of blocks there. We will get to that. Okay. On the other hand, like we have this base image uploaded. So burn successfully, click here to return. So I can close this and I can come back. So this is where you see like whatever it shows on the display. So it has the API key, and this is what we need in order to program it. Well, let's use this in this page. In this page, like on the bottom left, you need to click on this API key and then enter the API key that you want. So for me, it's that same thing like F4. So I'm going to select it and then like click on this one and then click OK. Okay, so we selected the device, and next to that we can also see like at the moment it's disconnected. I can click on refresh. If your device shows this API key, like it means it's connected to internet, and then like when you refresh that, you should be able to see it's connected. What version of base image does it have? You will be able to see that as well. Now that we have this program, in order to get this program to send data to AWS, we need a few things. So first, let's go into AWS Management Console, and then we will provision this one. So I'm currently in Ireland region. Now, the reason why I'm in Ireland region is because all the services that we want to use, which is like Timestream, Grafana, these are not available in every region. So for example, I can go to IoT Core. So because these are the services we are going to be using. So IoT Core is one of them. Timestream is one of them. And Grafana is another one of them. So if I go to IoT, I see like the AWS IoT service is available in all the regions which are enabled. So it's not available in Cape Town, Jakarta, Osaka, so and Milan. But we have like pretty much a number of regions where we can have our IoT infrastructure provision. But if we want to use Timestream as well, let's go to Timestream and top right and we click on this. Here it shows like we can only use it like very specific regions. There are like only 5 at the moment: North Virginia, Ohio, Oregon, Frankfurt, and Ireland. So since I want to use Ireland, so I'll just like use Ireland here. And also, if you look at Grafana, this is available in again limited number of regions. So I'm going to select Ireland because like it's available in all these regions. All the data that we have, it will be maintained in like a single region. For compliance, this is like most often really important. So once we are into the AWS IoT console, the first thing I need to do is like create a device, generate the certificates for them. So go to manage, click on things, and let's create a thing, create a single thing. Okay, let's name this device M5 Core2. And you can name it anything, you can select the thing type, you can do all of these things, but I'll want to go with the minimal configuration. So M5 Core2, that's what I want to call it. Next. And I want AWS to generate the certificates for me. So selected that, click on next. And do I have a policy? What permission will this device have? So the way it works is like the device has certificate and the policy, the permissions are usually attached to the certificate. That's why you see attach policies to certificate. So although like AWS will generate certificates on our behalf, any device, any user that has this certificate, they need to have permission. Currently we are not having any permission. I'll just like go ahead and then click on create a thing, and now it gives me the certificates. Like two important things or three definitely required certificates in the order. It's like one is the device certificate, so click on activate and then download it. Let's download this with the name. So it has like a very lengthy name. I'm just going to short it M5 Core2 dash certificate. So I got rid of the initial part and then like the rest of it was there in the name anyway. So save this one. And we need the private key for sure. So I'll get that as well. M5 Core2. This can be any name. For like simplicity, I'm just going to use the name of the device, then certificate private key. Although we don't usually use public key, but this is the only time you will be able to get that as well. So I'll store this one too. And I mean, like on this device that I'm programming, we don't need the root certificates because it has a block that provisions the root certificate. But if you are trying to program ESP32, Arduino, or Raspberry Pis, you will need this Amazon's root certificate as well. Okay, so I'll download the root one. Okay, so we have all these things currently. Now click done, your thing is ready, but currently it does not have any permission. Now let's say we want to give it the permission so it can publish the data. So what I'm currently quickly going to do is like go to secure and then click on policies and create a policy. What do I want to call this policy? I'll call it M5 Core2 policy. Okay. And now I need to give the permissions. I can either select the builder or I can give it in JSON, whatever is comfortable for you. Let's say I use the builder and then I'm going to say allow this policy to do what? There are like a number of things that we can allow it to do. Connect to IoT Core, publish messages, receive messages, subscribe to a topic. So we can do a number of things. Let's say I give all the permissions at the moment. Okay. And to what resource? So how do we identify this IoT course information? So I'll just like give, here you see this template. All you have to do is just give AR and AWS IoT, which region you want this device to publish the messages in, what's your account number, and that's all. Like rest of the things we will make it a wildcard. So I'll just quickly do ARN AWS IoT, and the region that we want to publish or connect to is like Ireland. Ireland has this code EU West one, if you see here. Okay, so I'll do EU West one, and we need the account number as well. Where do I get the account number? So I can click on this one, and here you see the account number for you. So I'll put down the account number as well. So this is going to change for you. So this is my account number 40423 and wildcard after that. So copy this one and I put this thing. Copy it, paste it. Okay. Now that it's done, I can click on create and we have the policy. Now we need to attach this policy to the certificate. So one of the ways how you can figure out that certificate, go back to manage things, and this is the thing that you have. Click on certificates, and this is the certificate that's attached. So select that and then click on by default it will show you policies, and there are like currently no policies. Attach policy, and this M5 Core2 policy, attach policies. Now that the device has all the permissions it needs. Great. Which means now we have configured the IoT core side of things. Now we need to also provision the device side of things. So what does the device need? If you see like here I have marked like what are the stuff that it requires. Wi-Fi, this is up to my network. What is the device name? What's the endpoint to which this device should be connecting to? What's the private key? What's the certificate file? So these are the things that I need to provision. So I'm quickly going to do something. So I'll check like what files are there in the device already. So you can select that by clicking on this button. So what files are there? So I click on that and it says there are no images. There is like a ding wave file, like a sound audio file, and then like there are no main programs and there are no certificates. But let's say first I add these two certificates, I mean the private key and the certificate. So this is the device's certificate that's uploaded, and upload the private key as well. Okay, that's also done, and click reload. I mean like it will be there. Now that it's done, I'll be able to come select key file. Where it shows null, I need to select private key, and where it says certificate, I need to select the certificate file. Okay, that's good. Now let me give my Wi-Fi SSID and password. And here, like, since I also want to publish the time along with the sensors, temperature, humidity, and pressure values, I am trying to get it from the NTP server. So which server do you want it from? You can select any of that. I'm using US. And what's the device name? This has to exactly match the case, any characters that you have. M5 Core2, and to what should this server be connecting to? Now, when we go back to AWS IoT, here we will be able to see when you go in the IoT console on the left, like click on settings, you will see the endpoint URL. So this is where our device should be trying to connect. So copy this in the program. Okay, that's done. M5 Core2, copy that name again. Like I'm using it in a few other places in the program as well. So in the display, if you see like there is device name value. So I am trying to put the value there. So we will put that into that label. Also, I'm trying to send this name every message that I send. So I'm going to give that in device ID as well. Okay. And to what topic should be publishing? Well, let's quickly go through like what happens in the program. This is the first thing that gets executed, the setup, and then it tries to connect to Wi-Fi, it tries to connect to the time server, it tries to set things up so it can connect to AWS IoT Core. Then when we say AWS start, this is where it actually establishes connection with AWS. And then like once that's done, on the display you see like there is like this device name value. I'm setting that to the device name called M5 Core2, and there's like a switch that we have. I'm setting it to the off state so that by default it's off. That's how the program will start. Nothing happens at this point of time. When you like enable that switch, when you set that switch on, we have like a method here, we have a function. So what it will do, it will start a timer. Okay, And this timer will run once in every 5 seconds. That's periodic then. Okay. And when I turn that off, it'll stop the timer. But what does the timer do? That's what it's defined here. So this timer will try to publish a message to which topic? This is where I need to give a topic name. So let's say I publish it to M5 Core2 and then let's call it telemetry. Okay, so this is the topic that to which I'm trying to publish the message. This uses MQTT protocol. So if you are not familiar with like what is this connection, what is the topic, what are subscribe and stuff like that, quickly watch a video on maybe like how MQTT works, and then you will understand. So this device tries to publish to AWS IoT Core. In this topic, what does it publish? It creates a JSON which has like all these values: timestamp, device ID, and temperature, humidity, and pressure. Those are the keys and the values for them. We are getting it from the ENV3 device. Okay, and then like after it does that, there is also like a TS value label on the display where we are like setting the time, date and time in this particular format. Okay, so that's what this is going to do. We have like pretty much configured this program. Now the next thing we need to do is like just click on download, and this will start uploading the code. So if you see on the device as well, like it's doing that, and it will automatically refresh, restart the device, and you should be able to see these messages coming in. Well, like before the messages start coming in, we will have to like enable it there. So before that, let me quickly go to test, and then let's see if it is actually publishing the messages. Okay, so it will be sending messages to M5 Core2 underscore telemetry. Now I'm going to subscribe to this topic. So whenever this device sends messages, I should be able to see it here. Enable it. Once in every 5 seconds, it will send. It's 5 seconds because in this program we have set this timer should be running for once in 5 seconds. But if you that's in milliseconds, you can reprogram it if you want to send it like once in a minute, once in 30 seconds, you could do that. Well, now you see like these messages are coming in now. But what do we want to do with this one? Let's look into how we can get these messages into a Timestream database. So the way we can get this information to Timestream database is like first let's go ahead and then create a Timestream database. I have this already. So click on create database. Let's create a standard database. Let's call it IoT, and we will want to use it. Timestream does this by default, so let's try to see if we can go ahead. Yeah, I didn't have to create that one because it automatically creates it. Okay, so now that we have a database, let's create a table as well. So when you create a table, this is where you will be questioned a few things. Okay, what do you want the table name to be? Let's call it sensor data. And all the data that goes from IoT Core to Timestream, this is like a time series database. Now, there is going to be some data that's going to be in memory and then like for a period of time. So if you see here, it says like how long can it store in the memory store? It will be like between 1 hour to maximum 12 months. So let's say I want the data to be hot data to be in the memory for like 1 day. And after the older data, let's say it goes into magnetic storage. How long do we want it to be there? The minimum there is like 1 day, and then the maximum is 200 years. So this is all the data that you are going to retain. So this is going to cold storage. Let's say I am happy with 1 month. Okay, so I mean like 1 day of data, it will be like in the hot storage, and 1 month of data in the cold storage. Now all of this is fine. I create a table. Okay, we have a table now, and I could go actions, query the table, and then I can write a query. I can say select all the records from the database IoT and the table called sensor data. Run the query, and it's going to tell me that there are like no rows. Okay, fine. Let's start putting data in there. So how do we start putting the data in there? This is where the rule comes into picture. So we have provisioned IoT Core, we have provisioned Timestream database. Now it's time we create a role. That role sends data from core to the data Timestream database, and the rule facilitates it. So let's go back to AWS IoT Core, and then here we will go to act, because we want to act on these messages. Go to rules, and here we create a rule. Let's call it IoT Core to Timestream. Next. Now here we give like what attributes do we want. We want all the attributes, all the uh, key value pairs from the message to go in. From which topic? The topic where we are publishing the messages is like called core M5Core2 telemetry, and we don't have any condition. So this is like a SQL query that you write. Okay, this is good. Click next. What do we want to do with the data? We want to publish, send this to Timestream table. So select Timestream table. Here it asks you which Timestream database, IoT, and the table name is sensor data. Now we need to create a dimension and then like give this timestamp value. So I'm going to say the device ID it's publishing, that will be my dimension, and the value whatever I have in the message, that's what I'm going to use. And the timestamp value, like this is optional, it will create on its own, so I can leave that as such. And then like I can create a new role. Okay, let's click on create new role, and I'll call it IoT Core to Timestream. Create it. Okay, now that we have it, you can go ahead and click next. Create. This new version has a bit of problem. So one of the ways you can um, get rid of this one is using the older console. So you just like click on from new console experience, go back to the old console experience. Give this up, go back to old console, create a rule. We call it time stream to telemetry. Make sure that the topic is enclosed in single quotes. What action do we want to take? Send it to Timestream table, configure it to this database and table. Dimension name is device ID, the value of device ID, and we will not give this timestamp here. And I ended up creating that role, right? So it's something with the Timestream. I had to go to Timestream. We will update the role, so it updates the policy. So this is like basically giving the permission for IoT Core to be able to send data to Timestream. Okay, add action. That's done. And create the rule. Okay, the rule is created. Let's enable the rule. That's done. So this should start sending data to Timestream now. How do we check? Go to Timestream, and this time, since the device has been keeping on sending information, you click on run, and you should be able to see data in here. So it has these fields. Device ID, because we inserted it, we have it. And then like for all the keys that we had in every message, those are called measure names, and the value, corresponding value, we will have it in measure value. Depending on what data type it is, either you will have it in measure value double, begin, or the varchar. And it automatically has generated this time as well. That's based on the GMT timing. Okay. So you can like scroll through this, and then you will see like all those measures and the values in here. Okay, great. So we have the data into Timestream now. The next thing what we want to do is provision the Grafana. Now that we have the data in Timestream database now, so I can run the query and then we have like all the data in Timestream. So let's try to get that into Grafana now. So Grafana, the way Grafana works is like we need to create a workspace, and that's what you get charged for. The number of users who use your workspace. There has to be at least one editor administrator who's going to be charged more, and then like the viewers, they are going to be charged less. So let's look at like how can we create a workspace. So let's create one workspace name. Let's call it IoT dashboard. Next. And how do you want to let the authentication happen for Grafana? Because it's an application that Amazon manages, but you will still have to like log into your Grafana. So let's say I select single sign-on. So that's my method. Now when I try to enable it, like I will have had to create a user in single sign-on, and then that's how we will be able to use it. Now, who manages the logins and everything? We will let that be service managed. Click next. Now, what services do you want to integrate with Grafana? So the data source, which ones should be working together? Let's say I select Timestream. If you have data in other services as well, you could select that, and then it's going to basically give the permission for the Grafana application to read the data from your AWS account. Okay, maybe select everything. And where should it send notifications? Do you want that to have access to SNS as well? If so, you can select that. Next. Okay, now that we have everything, we will create a workspace. Usually creating a workspace takes some time. I'd say like about 5 minutes or so. While that happens, we can try to configure or provision the single sign-on. In a way, if you are familiar with the Amazon Cognito, it works something like that. It's just that you maintain all the users and their information on the SSO. Okay, so we have enabled SSO now. We can see how to use this one. I have created single sign-on in North Virginia region, so I'm assuming like since it's usually cross-regional, like all my user credentials and everything will be in there. Okay, so you see here single sign-on, enable pending user input, because we have to create, or from single sign-on, we define the users there, and then like we will have to give assign those users into Grafana. And this is our workspace URL as well. Okay, let's say I click on assign new user. Okay, in this account in the North Virginia region. So although like in Ireland SSO, I don't see anything, but if I quickly show you like what do I have in North Virginia, you should be able to see like those two names in there. Okay, so you see like single sign-on in North Virginia, I have this dashboard, AWS accounts where I have single sign-on enabled. So I have a couple of accounts there, permission sets, application. Now in applications is where you see, okay, I have two applications, one in the North Virginia region, one in the Ireland region. This IoT dashboard that I just created, it's in the Ireland region. Okay, so this is like the sign on, and then the assigned users. Now, where do you find these users? Like you go to users, and then you see you create users there, and you just give like the email address and the name, and you enable it, you disable it. That's how it works. Okay, so once you have users created, maybe if I want more people to give access to Grafana, I can either create users or I can have users put into a group so I can manage the permissions for them in a better way. Okay, so let's say I go to application, and then here I go to Grafana IoT dashboard and assign users. Here I will try to assign the users. You have not granted application access. Okay. Assuming that we give this access from Grafana itself. So I'm back in Grafana. Here you see like this is my Grafana in Ireland region. All workspaces. It shows IoT dashboard, and in here I should be able to see assign new user. Okay. So once I'm here, let's say I give this user the permissions. Assign user. Now we can give like different types of ownership or different types of permissions. Now there has to be at least one admin who gets to like provision, create the dashboard and all of that. So by default it's a viewer, but let's say I make it an admin. Okay, now that it's an admin, now I can go back to my workspace. This is my workspace and this is the URL. So let's say I open link in my tab. So this opens up and it will prompt me to log in, sign in. So if you have created a user in your SSO, you will be able to like do all of these things. So how do you create a user? You just go ahead and you click create a user and then give a username. The password, will the user be setting it, or will you set up a one-time password for them? What's the email address, name? That's all you get there. And the user is ready. And this user, you get to configure who needs to be part of workspace from Grafana workspaces. Okay, now that I'm logged in, this is my IoT dashboard. So I can go to configuration data sources, and currently there are no data sources attached. I'm going to select, I mean like this gives you a very wide range of options of where can you get the data into Grafana, because like you may not want like data from only one source to be in your dashboard. So let's say I want Timestream. So I select that, and then it will ask me, okay, what do you want to call it? Amazon Timestream, that's fine. Okay, which database do I want to use for this connection? Okay, I need to select the region. So region, the one that I want is EU West 1, that's Ireland. It says connection success, but although it does not show what database do we have in EU West 1. Okay, so the workspace IAM role is great. I'm just going to like save and test and go to the dashboard. And here we want to create a dashboard. So in Timestream, we have like this database called IoT, and that has sensor data. Okay, so let's go back to Grafana, and now I will do create a dashboard, create an empty panel. And here I'm going to say, okay, here it shows the database, the table name and all that. Okay, now in the lower half where you see here, like this is where you write the query. Now, if you want any placeholders or like variable names for your table and databases, like you can just select this here. So database, I'm selecting IoT, table, I'm selecting it as sensor data. And then I'm going to write a query saying, give me the time. Okay, maybe even before that, let's say I try to get all the records from database dot table. Okay, so this query, it's just like get me all the records from the table that we have defined here. Which table? Here it is. Okay, now I can select this and then go to table view, and then you see like what information do you get? Device ID, measure name, that gives us like what values are available. There is humidity, similarly there will be temperature, there will be pressure. So whatever values we are sending, it will all be here. Okay, so that's one thing. And then you have the time column. You have, depending on what type of, I mean, like depending on what's the measure name, you have like a measure value as well for that. So now what I'm going to do is like what we want in order to plot a graph is like time and measure name of a certain type and then the corresponding value. So I'm going to say like select me time and measure value, which is double because like I'm interested in the temperature. And then I'm going to say where the measure name is like temperature. Okay, so that's all you have to do. And then if you selected some value, you get that. What's the time and then what's the measured value. Now I can go back from the table view. Okay, this is the data that we have. Now this one shows the data for last 6 hours, but let's say I want it for the last 30 minutes. And it will give me the last 30 minutes as data. Now, if we are happy with this, I can just click change this panel title to temperature. Okay. Now I can apply, and this has come into the dashboard. Let's say I want this a similar thing for all the three metrics that we have. So I'll say was it clean? So I'm going to do more duplicate. Okay, so this has created one. Now let's say I go edit this one and then I say I want these values, not for temperature, but for humidity. Now this should give me all humidity levels. Great. Apply. And similarly, let's say I want another one. Okay. Should have renamed it to humidity. Right. And let's say I need one more for the pressure. So more duplicate and go edit this. And I'm going to call this pressure. Now we have it. You can arrange this any way you would like to. So it's like your dashboard. Welcome to do what you want. So let's say this is how I get it. Okay, no, this is like one type of chart, but you can, there are like several other types of things that you can do. Okay, add a panel, add an empty panel. Now, let's say what other types of widgets can you add? There is time series, which is what we had. We can get bar, gauge, table, pie chart, a number of things. Let's say now I'm interested in just getting the metric, the last metric. So I'm going to say, okay, give me the measure value, which is a double from the database that's selected and the table that's selected, where the measure name is measure name like temperature. Okay, now I want the recent data. So I'm going to say order this data by time in descending order and limit it to only one record. Now this is going to give me the data. And I'm going to select the database to be IoT and the table to be the sensor data. Okay, this is like the latest metric. And then I'm going to say temperature. Applied, it is here. Now let's say I want this on this side. That's like the fresh value. It's not yet fresh, but we will have to like update it. Now, similarly, I'm going to do this for the rest of the two metrics as well. Duplicate, edit this one. I'm going to put humidity, and then I'm going to say humidity apply humidity, but where is it? 29.3. This shouldn't be right. Apply, and I'm going to do this for pressure as well. So here we have a metric. Apply. Oops. Did I not? I had to duplicate this. Okay. Since we have pressure already, I'm going to come down here. It right. So we have like all the latest metric as well. How do I know it's all the latest metric? Maybe it's not yet. So how do I make sure this is like the latest metric? On top right, you see like this gives me the last 30 minutes of data. I can change this at any point of time. Give me 15 minutes of data. It'll like give me the last 15 minutes of data. Now let's say I'm happy with 30 minutes of data because anyway I'm paying for like 1 day of uh, the hot storage in Timestream. And how do I automatically get it to be refreshed? Now here you see there's like a refresh dashboard. You select that and then currently it's off. And let's say I want this to update once in every 5 seconds. You can change that interval because like the more number of times you read right into the time stream, the more you will end up paying for it. So that's why you can, based on that, like you can select how often do you want this dashboard to refresh the metrics. Well, so that's what we have for now. Let's save the dashboard. Let's call it IoT action code, and then we have it. Save it. Okay. Now, as an editor, I have access to edit all these things. If I create another SSO user, assign it in Grafana as a viewer. So how do you do that? Like all workspaces, you see this workspace, and you go authentication in the single sign-on, you should be able to see configure users. Now here, like this user is the admin. If you want more users, you can assign user first, add them in SSO. Once they accept, they create the password. Like I mean, like even if not, you can still assign them, and then they will be able to like access it as a viewer. When they access it as a viewer, they'll not get access to like create a dashboard, add a data source, none of those things. But this is what they get to see. Well, that's all I have for now. And like I'm also hoping to create another video where we will see like how we can use site-wise as well, because like for IoT use case, using site-wise makes more sense because we can model a machine and then like through that we collect all the data in the edge and we send that to site-wise cloud, and then like from there we can get the data into dashboard. I mean like in Grafana. So you should be able to see when you go to data sources, like where else can we get the data from? You can select data source. So Timestream was one of them. Similarly, we have site-wise. You can get data from databases as well, from RDS, from Open Timestream database. There are like a number of places where you can get the data from and then have it represented in Grafana. Because sometimes like not only the IoT data that you need in dashboard, maybe you need some other metrics as well that could be in other sorts of database. So Grafana gives you all those options. Well, I hope you like this video. If you do, like, please try to like and subscribe this channel. Thank you.